You wake up every morning and step onto a stage. You might not realize it, but the lights are already on. People are watching, judging, and without even knowing it, you start performing. You put on a smile you don't feel. You talk about dreams you don't believe in. You pretend to be fine when you're breaking inside. You've been acting your whole life because that's what this world taught you, that being real is dangerous and being fake keeps you safe. But what nobody told you is that safety has a price, and that price is your soul. The more you perform for the world, the further you drift from yourself. And one day you wake up in the mirror and realize you don't even recognize who's staring back. You became the mask. You became what the world needed you to be. And somewhere along the way, you forgot who you were. It's funny, isn't it? We spend our lives trying to be accepted by people who are also pretending. Everyone's an actor. Everyone's wearing armor. The loud ones hide their insecurity with noise. The quiet ones bury their truth in silence. Everyone's afraid of being seen for who they really are. That's the tragedy of the human stage. It's not that people lie, it's that they've lied so long. They forgot what the truth even feels like. But here's the thing most never understand. The world is built on performance. Power, success, influence, they're not always about being better. They're about being believable. The strongest don't shout. They act with intent. They know how to read the room, how to stay calm when everyone else breaks character. See, once you realize that everyone's performing, you stop reacting and you start observing. You start seeing through the masks. You notice the cracks in people's smiles, the hesitation behind their confidence, the fear behind their anger. And you begin to understand something crucial. The truth doesn't always wear honesty. Sometimes it hides inside the lie. You might think this sounds cold. It's not. It's clarity. Because the moment you stop taking people's words at face value, you start living in the real world, not the one they sell you. And that's where control begins. Most people live like puppets, pulled by invisible strings: approval, fear, status, money, love. They dance to someone else's tune and call it choice. But those who see the strings can cut them. You can't control the world, but you can learn how it moves. And once you do, you stop getting played by it. The world wants you to act, to fit the script, to say the right thing, smile at the right time, believe the right lies. Because a predictable man is a controlled man. But the moment you pause, the moment you stop rushing to perform, they start getting nervous, because silence exposes truth. You start noticing how fake everything sounds, how people say, "How are you?" but don't really care, how friends vanish when you fall, how success is just a costume stitched from other people's opinions. And when you start seeing all that, you go quiet, not out of weakness, but out of understanding, because you realize you don't need to shout your truth anymore. You just need to live it. That's when the game changes. Because the moment you stop performing, the world loses its power over you. You start playing a different role, not the one they gave you, but the one you chose. You start walking differently, not seeking applause, not chasing validation, but watching, learning, predicting. Every conversation becomes a scene, every reaction a test, and every silence an opportunity. You stop being the actor. You become the observer, the director. And in a world full of performers, the one who watches always wins. You see, awareness is power, and most people are terrified of it. They don't want to see how fake things are. They'd rather live in illusion because it's easier. But illusions don't last forever. Eventually, the lights fade, the masks crack, and every actor is forced to face the truth. And when that moment comes, the only question left will be, did you play the role, or did the role play you? You begin to see what most people never will, that the world doesn't run on truth. It runs on perception. And perception is just a prettier word for illusion. Every person you meet is selling something, a version of themselves, a story they want you to believe, a mask they built so carefully they forgot. It was never their face. They lied to survive, to be accepted, to matter. And the irony is, you used to do the same. You wore the same mask, played the same games, smiled when you didn't want to, laughed when you were dying inside. But once you wake up, once you see the game, you can't go back to sleep. You start to see it in conversations. How people don't listen, they wait for their turn to speak. How they seek validation, not understanding. How they'll praise you when you're useful and vanish when you're not. It's not malice, it's blindness. They're lost in the roles they play, and they don't even realize it. That's why you must never take things personally, because nothing people say is really about you. It's about their mask reacting to yours. That's awareness. Not the mystical kind, the real kind. The kind that hurts at first. Because once you start seeing clearly, you realize how many of your connections were built on lies. Fake friendships, conditional love, transactional loyalty. It hurts, but it's necessary. Because awareness isn't supposed to comfort you. It's supposed to wake you. And when you finally wake up, you stop chasing the wrong things. You stop begging for people to understand you. You stop explaining your worth. You stop needing to prove anything to anyone. You realize that peace doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being unmoved. Stillness becomes your weapon. The world wants you reactive, emotional, impulsive, predictable. Because if they can make you react, they can make you perform again. That's why the most dangerous person isn't the loud one. It's the one who can stay calm when everything's burning. The quiet one. The one who listens. The one who doesn't need to speak to be understood. That's power. Not dominance. Not arrogance. Just awareness, absolute and unshakable. And when you live from that space, people start to feel something different around you. They can't manipulate you anymore. Because you don't take the bait. You don't need their approval. You don't fall for their tricks. You've seen the script and you refuse to act in it. The world will call you cold, detached, difficult to read. But that's because they no longer control your emotions. They can't pull your strings. They can't decide who you are. And that scares them, because deep down, everyone wants to be free. But very few are willing to face the cost of freedom, being misunderstood. The more you see, the lonelier it gets. Because awareness isolates you from illusion. You can't laugh at empty jokes anymore. You can't force yourself into shallow crowds. You can't be fake just to fit in. You don't hate people, you just see through them. And once you see, you can't unsee. But there's beauty in that loneliness. Because in solitude, you start meeting someone you've ignored for years. Yourself. The real one. Not the performer. Not the projection. Not the one begging to be loved. The one who was always there, quietly waiting behind the noise. And when you meet that version of you, something changes. You stop running. You stop pretending. You stop needing. You realize you don't need to play every role. You just need to be real. That's the paradox of awareness. You lose the world, but you find yourself. You stop living for applause and start living for authenticity. And that shift, it's where real strength is born. But the world won't like it. They'll sense that something's different about you. They'll test you, challenge you, provoke you, to see if they can still make you perform. Stay calm. Let them. Because the more they push, the more your silence will expose their weakness. You'll see that people who talk the most understand the least. People who crave control have none over themselves. People who judge fear being judged. And when you see all this, you stop engaging. You stop wasting energy proving your truth. You realize understanding doesn't need defense. Awareness turns you from a player into a strategist, from a performer into a director, from a follower into an observer. You're no longer inside the story. You're watching it unfold. And once you're the observer, you can shape it. Because when you're aware, you don't react to the world. The world reacts to you. That's the start of mastery. And mastery doesn't come from control. It comes from clarity. From not being moved by every noise, every opinion, every performance. Because when you stop needing the stage, that's when you truly understand the game. There's a moment that comes after awareness, a quiet one, where you realize knowing the truth isn't enough. Seeing the illusion doesn't free you from it. It just gives you the chance to stop being fooled by it. That's when you understand something deeper. Clarity means nothing without control. Because awareness without control turns into chaos. You see too much, feel too much, analyze too much, and you start drowning in your own thoughts. But awareness with control, that's power. Control isn't about domination. It's not about forcing the world to obey you. It's about mastering yourself so completely that nothing outside can disturb your peace. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You begin to respond not emotionally, but intentionally. And that's what separates the wise from the restless. Think about it. Most people are slaves to their emotions. Someone insults them, they explode. Someone praises them, they glow. Their mood changes with the weather. Their identity shifts with opinion. They're like puppets on strings, pulled by anger, pulled by praise, pulled by fear. But the one who learns control cuts the strings. You can feel the difference when you meet someone like that. They speak slowly. They don't rush to prove a point. They don't panic when things go wrong, because they're not living from impulse. They're living from center. It's not that they don't feel emotion. They just don't let emotion make decisions for them. That's real strength. Not loud, not dramatic, but deep like still water that hides the storm beneath. The world can't touch someone like that. Because what can you take from a man who's not controlled by gain or loss? What can you threaten him with when he's mastered himself? You can take his reputation, he'll stay calm. You can take his comfort, he'll adapt. You can take his approval, he never needed it. That's power, the kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't need recognition. It's invisible, and that's why it lasts. But control takes time. You don't just wake up one day unshakable. You build it, moment by moment, pain by pain. Every time you resist reacting, every time you stay calm under pressure, Every time you choose silence instead of argument, you strengthen it. Control isn't built in comfort. It's forged in chaos. You'll notice something funny when you start mastering control. People won't understand you anymore. They'll call you emotionless, cold, arrogant even, because you no longer give them what they expect. They can't read you, and that makes them uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's their problem, not yours. Because what they're really saying is, I can't manipulate you anymore. Control is emotional intelligence in its purest form. It's not about suppressing feelings. It's about directing them. You still feel anger, you just don't let it spill. You still feel fear, you just don't let it freeze you. You still feel doubt, you just don't let it decide for you. You hold your emotions like fire, close enough to feel the warmth, but never close enough to burn. That's the difference between being alive and being consumed. Most people burn themselves out, chasing every feeling. They run after happiness, flee from sadness, worship love and fear loss. But when you control yourself, you realize emotions aren't enemies. They're messages, signals, guides. And once you learn to read them, you start understanding the world in a way most people never will. Because emotion reveals motive. When someone speaks with anger, you hear their fear. When someone flatters you, you feel their agenda. When someone judges you, you see their insecurity. That's control. Seeing beyond the words, beyond the act, beyond the mask. You no longer fight the world, you read it. You stop trying to win arguments, you let silence expose the truth. You stop reacting to chaos, you let it destroy itself. And as you do, something strange happens. The world starts to slow down around you. You see people rushing, talking, panicking, and you just watch. Because now you move with intention. Every word, every glance, every step calculated, conscious. You don't waste energy on what doesn't serve your purpose. You stop living from emotion and start living from principle. Principles are your anchor. They're what hold you when everything around you collapses. When people betray you, when plans fall apart, when you lose what you thought you couldn't live without. Principles are what keep you upright. Because control isn't built when things are easy. It's tested when everything falls apart, and you still stand tall. That's how the world measures strength, not by what you build in, but by what you can't be broken by. Control doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. You stop wasting heat on the wrong fires. You stop fighting battles that don't matter. You stop chasing validation that was never worth it. And when you do that, you rise above the noise. You become untouchable. Not because you're stronger than everyone, but because you're not fighting the same battles anymore. You've learned the secret most never do. You don't need to control the world. You just need to control yourself. And the world starts adjusting to you. That's when everything starts changing. Your relationships, your career, your peace, your entire rhythm of life. You stop chasing. You start attracting. Not by manipulation, but by alignment. Because when you control your energy, you control your presence. And presence changes rooms before you even speak. When control becomes second nature, something subtle shifts inside you. You no longer wake up wondering what the world thinks. You no longer chase the noise that once ruled your days. You start to live in a state of quiet certainty, not because life got easier, but because you got steadier. You've reached a place most never touch, the space beyond reaction. The world still spins, but you don't spin with it. You move through the same storms, but they no longer own you. That's mastery. Mastery doesn't look heroic. It's not the loud victories or the applause. It's the ability to sit in silence and feel complete. It's waking up and knowing you will meet the day, not fight it, not fear it, but meet it. When you master yourself, you stop needing proof. You stop needing witnesses, because real strength has nothing to prove, it simply is. People will still misunderstand you. They'll still project their chaos onto your calm. They'll ask, "Why don't you react?" And you'll smile, because they still think peace is weakness. But peace isn't the absence of fire. It's knowing exactly when to light it. You can strike if you must, but you no longer need to. That's power in its purest form. Mastery is detachment, not indifference. You still care, but you don't cling. You still love, but you don't lose yourself. You give your best, and when it's over, you walk away clean. Because mastery teaches you something awareness never could. Control isn't about holding tighter, it's about knowing when to let go. Letting go of what's gone, of who you were, of everything that tried to break you but only shaped you. You start to realize that life was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to refine you. Every betrayal, every delay, every heartbreak, they weren't punishments, they were polish. They took away what was weak, so what was strong could remain. They burned away illusion until only truth was left. And now, look at you. The world that once scared you now feels small. The things that once controlled you now feel light. The chaos you once drowned in is just background noise. You're not running anymore. You're not proving anymore. You're just being. That's the highest form of strength, the ability to stand still in a world that can't stop moving. You don't chase attention. You don't demand respect. You earn both silently, and people feel it. They can't explain it, but when you walk into a room, it's like time slows for a moment, because you carry something rare, inner gravity. Mastery isn't learned from books. It's lived through wounds, through nights you thought you'd never make it out of, through silence that almost broke you. And then somehow you made it. Not the same, but wiser. You learned that pain isn't your enemy. It's your instructor. You learned that loneliness isn't a curse. It's the forge where self-trust is born. You learned that control without compassion is cruelty, and compassion without control is weakness. Balance, that's mastery. At this stage, your focus changes. You no longer ask, "How do I win?" You ask, "What's worth winning?" You start choosing peace over pride, clarity over chaos, depth over noise. You realize life isn't about collecting victories. It's about creating meaning, about leaving behind something cleaner than what you found. That's why mastery doesn't make you louder. It makes you gentler, because you finally understand what power is for. Power isn't meant to dominate. It's meant to protect, to build, to heal. And you can't do that if you're still fighting ghosts. So you forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You move on not because you've forgotten, but because you've learned. And you keep walking, not because the road got easier, but because you became unbreakable. The actor who once played roles for approval has now stepped behind the curtain. He doesn't need the spotlight anymore. He's seen the script, learned the stage, and mastered the art of silence. Now he simply writes his own lines. That's what this world really is, a stage. But once you learn to act with truth instead of performance, you stop pretending. You stop playing to the crowd. You start living for the scene that matters, the one only you can see. And that's when you finally realize you were never weak. You were never behind. You were simply becoming. Final monologue, soft close. So take a breath. Look at where you are. You've survived everything that was designed to break you. You've learned everything the pain tried to teach you. Now walk forward not with noise, but with quiet strength. Not to prove, but to live. Because the stage was never the enemy. It was your classroom. And now that you've mastered the play, it's time to write your own story.